I still remember the exact number in my bank account the day I decided things had to change. $11. Not 1,100. $11, sitting between me and the end of the month, with rent due in 6 days. If you've ever stared at a banking app and felt your stomach drop, you already know exactly what that moment feels like. It's not just about the money. It's the quiet panic. The math you keep doing in your head over and over, hoping it adds up differently the third time. That $11 is where this story actually starts. Not with a six-figure portfolio. Not with some lucky stock pick. Just a broke 20-something who was tired of feeling powerless every time a bill showed up. Today, that same person has a portfolio worth over $100,000. No inheritance. No lottery ticket. No secret crypto coin that mooned overnight. Just a series of decisions, repeated over and over, long after they stopped feeling exciting. And honestly, that's the part nobody wants to hear, because it's not flashy, but it's the truth. So let's walk through exactly how it happened, step by step, including the mistakes, because those mattered just as much as the wins. The first thing that had to change wasn't money. It was the story I was telling myself about money. For years, the belief underneath everything was simple. People like me don't build wealth. Wealth is for people who already have it, or people who get lucky. That belief felt true because everyone around me believed it too. But beliefs aren't facts. They're just thoughts we've repeated so many times they start to feel like reality. And the moment that belief got challenged was almost embarrassingly small. A coworker, who made roughly the same paycheck I did, mentioned she'd been putting $50 a week into an investment account for 2 years. $50. That's it. Not some genius trading strategy. Just $50, consistently, while everyone else spent theirs on things that disappeared by Monday. That single conversation cracked something open. If she could do it on the same income, so could I. So the real starting point wasn't a big dramatic leap. It was opening one account and committing to $25 a week. Not because $25 would change anything overnight, but because the goal wasn't the amount. The goal was building the habit of paying yourself first, before the money had a chance to quietly vanish into things that didn't matter a year later. Here's the part most people get wrong early on, and it's worth slowing down for. They think building wealth starts with finding the perfect investment. The hot stock. The secret strategy nobody else knows about. But wealth almost never starts there. It starts with plugging the leaks. Think about a bucket with small holes in the bottom. You can pour as much water in as you want, but if it's leaking out the bottom faster than you're filling it, you'll never fill that bucket. Most people's finances work exactly like that. Subscriptions they forgot about. Eating out because cooking felt like too much effort after a long day. Buying things to feel better after a bad day, then feeling worse when the bill arrived. None of that makes someone irresponsible. It makes them human. But noticing those leaks, just noticing them, is what created the first real extra money to invest. Not from a raise. Not from a side hustle yet. Just from paying attention. Once the leaks were patched, even slightly, the next lesson showed up, and this one is the lesson that actually built the $100,000. Consistency beats timing every single time. There's this myth that successful investors are the ones who buy at the perfect moment and sell at the perfect peak. In reality, most people who try to time the market end up sitting on cash, waiting for the perfect entry point that never quite feels right, while the market quietly moves on without them. Instead, the strategy was almost boring. The same amount of money automatically invested every single week into a simple low-cost index fund. Market up that week? Money still went in. Market down that week? Money still went in. No emotional decisions. No checking the news every morning to decide whether today was a buying day. Just automation doing the work that willpower could never be trusted to do consistently. This is where compound growth starts doing something almost invisible at first, and that invisibility is exactly why so many people quit too early. In the first year, the account barely moved. A few $100s in contributions, a little growth on top, and if you're being honest, it felt kind of pointless. There were nights of genuinely wondering if this was even worth the effort, when that same money could have gone towards something that felt good right now instead of some abstract future. But here's what almost nobody tells you about compounding. It looks like nothing is happening, until suddenly it looks like everything is happening. Picture a snowball at the top of a hill. In the beginning, you're pushing it yourself, and it barely picks up any extra snow. It feels like all your effort, very little result. But the further it rolls, the more snow it picks up without you pushing nearly as hard. Eventually, it's moving on its own momentum, growing faster than you ever could by hand. That's exactly what happened around year 3. The growth on the existing investments started to outpace what was actually being contributed. The money invested 2 years earlier was now quietly earning money of its own, without anyone lifting a finger. That's the moment investing stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like magic, even though it's really just math, patiently doing its job. Now, it wasn't only about consistent investing. Around this same time, a second engine got added, and this is where a lot of people get stuck, because they think they need to choose between investing or earning more. The truth is, you need both. A small side income started, nothing glamorous, just freelancing a skill that already existed from a regular 9-to-5 job. The first month brought in less than $100. Genuinely almost not worth mentioning. But the agreement made from the very beginning was simple. None of that side income would be spent on lifestyle. Every single dollar from it went straight into investments. That one decision mattered more than almost anything else in this entire story. Because lifestyle creep is silent, and it's sneaky, and it convinces perfectly smart people to stay broke their entire lives, just at a nicer income level. Picture 2 people who both get a raise. One immediately upgrades their car, their apartment, their everyday spending, because they finally feel like they've earned it. The other keeps living exactly the same as before and quietly invests the difference. 5 years later, one of them has a slightly nicer car they're still making payments on. The other has built real, tangible freedom. Same raise. Completely different outcome. The difference wasn't the income. It was the decision about what happened the moment that income arrived. Now let's talk about the mistakes, because pretending this was a straight line upward would be dishonest, and you deserve better than a fairy tale. There was a stretch, right in the middle of this journey, when the market dropped hard. Not a small dip. A real, headline-making, everyone's talking about it kind of drop. And the instinct, the very human instinct, was to pull everything out before it got worse. That moment is exactly where most people accidentally sabotage years of progress. Selling during a downturn doesn't protect your money. It locks in the loss permanently and guarantees you miss the recovery that almost always follows. Thankfully, that lesson had already been learned secondhand by watching other people panic sell years earlier and regret it. So instead of selling, the contributions kept going. Same amount, every week, even while every headline screamed that the sky was falling. And when the market recovered, which it eventually did, like it almost always does over time, those contributions made during the scary months turned out to be some of the best purchases of the entire journey, simply because everything was on sale. That's a strange kind of lesson to sit with. The moments that feel the worst emotionally are often the moments that build the most wealth long-term, specifically because they scare everyone else away. As the years went on, the strategy barely changed. That's honestly the most unglamorous part of this whole story. There was no secret unlocked at year 4. No special insider information at year 6. Just the same boring habits, repeated with almost stubborn consistency. Contributions increased slightly whenever income increased. New leaks got noticed and patched along the way. The side income grew into a genuinely meaningful second stream. And the portfolio, quietly, in the background of an otherwise normal life, kept compounding. Crossing $50,000 felt like a milestone worth celebrating. Crossing $100,000 felt different. It felt less like an achievement and more like proof. Proof that the $11 version of that same person had been wrong about something important. Wealth isn't reserved for people who start with advantages. It's built by people who are willing to be patient long after patience stops feeling rewarding. If there's one thing worth taking from this entire story, it's this. Nobody is coming to save your financial future, and honestly, nobody needs to. The path isn't complicated. It's just unglamorous, and that's exactly why so few people actually stick with it long enough to see what's on the other side. You don't need $11,000 to start. You need $11, the decision to stop leaking it away, and the patience to let time do what time has always done for anyone willing to wait for it. That I'm not a financial advisor. This content is for educational and informational purposes only. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. And if you're still here, why not subscribe for more video like this?